I started my juice fast or solid food vacation from June 14th to July 15th. We had our last meal around 9 p.m. and that was a little late for us usually, but I didn't eat until July 15th around 9 a.m. So it was like 30 to 30 and a half days. I think I broke it down to 732 hours. So there's many different types of fast. There's the juice fast like I did, or the solid food vacation. There's water fasting, there's dry fasting, where you abstain from water and food. Further, I wanted to say that I've done many of juice fasts before, from 24 hours to 3 days. I've done 5-day juice fast with smoothies. And the longest I've done besides this 30-day one has been 7 days. This year I fasted at least 24 hours, but usually 3 days, at least a month. So I do have practice, and I built my way up to this. And I also wanted to say it's okay if you try to do a juice fast and you end up failing. There's been many times where I said, okay, I'm going to do a 3-day or a 5-day juice fast, and then by hour 4 I'm already eating mangoes and grapes and such. So don't be hard on yourself. Just explore your body, figure it out. Every day I consumed at least a green juice, and that consisted of kale, green apple, lemon, ginger, Swiss chard, celery, red cabbage, and beet tops. If you use the green apple and lemon and the ginger, those can really mask about any flavor. So you can go wild with those, and it helps get some of the bitter greens down. Next, I would have I guess you would call it a red juice, but it was beetroots, carrots, red apples, and then usually a lime or a lemon, something like that, maybe some turmeric, maybe some ginger. None of these are set in stone. They would change day to day. I would always start my morning off with fresh squeezed grapefruit juice and oranges or clementines or just some kind of citrus juice like that. I always found that I always looked forward to that every morning. So I would have about a quart of the green juice, a quart of the red juice, then I would have just a small glass of the orange juice, and then I would usually the rest of the day consume fruit juices. So whether that would be a watermelon lime juice that we would strain through a nut bag, or honeydew that was really good. I discovered that juice halfway through the fast. And I'd also have like pineapple, apple, grape, dark grape Concord with lemon is also a very good one. So that's mainly what I consume juice-wise, and I would try to get in at least a gallon a day. At night, I would usually drink some herbal tea, so some like chamomile or valerian, skullcap, something to just help me sleep, because you go through a lot of emotional things during this fasting process. Also, halfway through my fast, well, probably about 3/4 way, about day 18 or day 20 out of the 30 days, I started drinking small amounts of nut milk that I would make myself. I don't recommend too much of that, but it did help get me some more calories because I was lacking in calories, and it also just helped entertain me. So that is mainly what I drank within a day. But juicing does not have to be a low-calorie diet. You can drink up to 2 gallons a day and get about 4,000 calories. So with that, I wanted to state that I actually lacked in getting enough calories. I was drinking at least a gallon a day usually, but I was working really hard. Usually during a fast, you take time and rest a lot. I was help building a house. I was framing, roofing, siding, all of that, and worked constantly the first 10 days of my fast. And so it was hard for me. And my girlfriend actually recommended, she did the first 6 days with me during this juice fast, and she came across the John Rose video that I would suggest him if anyone's interested, about putting sweet potatoes and spinach into more juices to up your calorie intake. And I started doing this, and it really helped. So many people asked about the weight thing, and I didn't have a scale when I first started off, but I assume I weighed around 172 to 176, probably closer to 172 because I have been fasting a lot lately. So I weighed around 172, and by the time I ended, I went and bought scales. I had to step off and step back on because I thought at most I would weigh around 158 or somewhere around there. You know, I didn't think I'd get too far below 160, but I actually got to 144. So like I said, I was kind of in disbelief. But I wasn't worried about this weight loss because I know that I shed a lot of bad material and I was going to be able to rebuild it with vital material. Oh, I also wanted to briefly talk about how people say they, by like day 8 or 12, hit different strides. And they're like, I'm not even hungry. I feel great and light and all that. And I have been there before, but this time, by day 12, I was dreaming of food all day, every day. It was a little bit of a more rough process for me. Fasting is always different for the individual at different times of their life. Juice fasting, or any kind of fasting, water's more powerful and dry fasting is very powerful, but you might not be ready for it, just like you might not be ready for an extensive juice fast. But essentially what it does is give your digestive system a break. Your body can only do one of two things. It can either digest food or it can start healing your body, but it can't do both at the same time. This is also why people recommend not eating close to going to bed, because you don't get as good a sleep because your body's working to digest. And a lot of people graze and constantly bombard their body, and it never has a chance to take time to heal. This is also why intermittent fasting or fast mimicking diets are very beneficial. So eating within 1 hour a day or even like 6 hours a day, but keeping it in a small window so your body has time to heal the rest of the time. What actually physically happens to your cells, there's a thing called apoptosis and autophagy, or autophagy. There's many different ways to pronounce it, but essentially they kind of do the same thing, but apoptosis is the program of your cell and the cell death. So cells are supposed to die, and if they don't, they're called immortal cells or cancer, essentially. So this helps the bad cells or the weaker ones die off and leaves room for new growth and such. Autophagy is something similar, but it's almost getting rid of different parts of the cell and different damaged cells and rebuilding it with new material. So you could kind of think of it as maybe not demolishing an old house, but like or an old barn, and reusing the good wood left to rebuild a house. A couple other things that fasting does is not just physical, but you're also fasting the mind. It's a very emotional ride, and you realize different things of how foods of these salts and sugars are very addictive. People wouldn't ever see me as an angry person, and I usually don't get angry, but I noticed during this fast I was getting annoyed and irritated, and I definitely had some emotional things to work through. That was very interesting to me, and it was very eye-opening. So fasting also clears the mind of these different informations and allows you to step back and kind of see what is going on. Kind of want to get into the esoteric side of this a little bit. Being able to step back, as the Greeks kind of referred to it as Apollonian and Dionysius. Apollonian being the form and Dionysius being the chaos. So you can see these same patterns through everything, right? So the veins in your system, or the veins in a tree, the concha shells, or the pine cones, or these Fibonacci sequences, or the Mandelbrot fractal. You see these different patterns of form and chaos. Fasting allows yourself to kind of step back and observe these different dimensions. For anything to become in existence, it takes, I'll try to simplify this, it takes, at least in a three-dimensional world, it takes a balance of 6 equal forces. Technically 8, and I'll get into that, but the 8 cosmic rays, if you're familiar with that. But in existence, So you have a single point of crystallized solid, and you have equal forces left to right, front to back, and up and down. You can have infinite amount of points, but as long as it's equal on both sides. And then you have the two opposing existent forces. So from the outward in and the material itself inward out. And this plays into the as above, so below, as within, so without, that whole ideology. And when you look at nature, you can see that it's actually unbalanced, and you know this unbalance is happening by growth. Growth is a signal of unbalance. So if you think about that, what we're talking about with the point becoming an existence, if something was less forceful on this side and more on this, it would be moving this way. Same way with if there's more force on top and less on the bottom, it'd be moving down. If you look at nature, if you look at those, the shell forming or the pine cone, these fractals, these Fibonacci sequences, you realize that it's in the spiral shape. And you could get that if you see that it's equally unbalanced, of less pressure on three sides of the cube and more on three sides of the other side of the cube. So therefore you get this spiral. While you're fasting, you can kind of step back and see this unbalance. Everything relies on God's law of cause and effect. So once you have any kind of information coming in, whether that's negative thoughts, good thoughts, bad thoughts, or even food, you're taking on this union of information. So fasting allows this break and this breath. As all religions talk about fasting, they also talk about chastity and or semen retention for males, and how the sexual transmutation allows vital life force to power yourself. Because if you think about it, you know how many nutrients are in sperm, and once you expel this vital life force, your body has to work extra hard to create it again. So by practicing semen retention, you harness this vital life force. And I mean, everyone's talked about this, from business moguls, professional athletes, to spiritual gurus. So there's definitely something there. And once again, my words are never dogmatic or never law. It's only speaking towards a truth, and you should figure that out for yourself by self-experimentation. This is awesome. Yeah. So it's day 30, well, almost 31, 30 and a half. And this is a honeydew. I'm pretty excited. Hi. It's so good.
How is it?
It's really, really good. I'm gonna eat my honeydew and finish this video later. Thank you. Eat well, my friends.